So I'm back home now because it was too cold and rainy outside. But, and then here it's too noisy. It's been raining for the last couple of days and it's been a bit warmer. So all the snow that was sticking around because it was cold is starting to melt, and I'm really noticing that it's significantly louder from the traffic. And I was thinking about how it's interesting that I was seriously going crazy from the noise, and I thought, I don't think I can live here one more day. And this was maybe a month and a half ago or something. And then when I was at my wit's end, it started snowing. And then it snowed some more, and then it snowed some more, and then it got cold, so it didn't melt. And it's been actually quite quiet for a month or so because of that. And it's never snowed here that much. And I'm just thinking about how when I was first in Mania, I thought I could control the weather. I thought when I went outside, the sun came out because I wanted it to. And it seemed like it was true in those moments, but what I'm trying to say with this is I couldn't imagine how the noise was going to go away, but then there was this extreme weather here and it was very quiet. So it feels like the universe intervened, even though it wasn't necessarily specifically because of me. It still did intervene and help me out. And I'm really noticing now, just because it's a lot noisier, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now I don't know if I can really be here. It could be good as well, though, just to remind me that that's one of the reasons why I'm going to California for a while, is to get away from the noise. And then maybe there I can think straight. I was talking to somebody about Bell Let's Talk Day. It's a day in Canada where Bell gives money for the tweets people send to mental health organizations. And somebody was telling me that Bell Let's Talk was the top hashtag for 2016 on Twitter. I don't know if that was for Canada or for everything or what, but I'd have to double check that. But I was thinking about that hashtag in terms of Let's Talk. Let's Talk was the top hashtag. We're not talking. So we don't talk, we don't talk, we don't talk. We can't say what's on our mind. We can't be individuals. We can't just have open dialogue and communication. And then people get so isolated that then they have to talk about having some kind of mental health challenge or mental health concern or mental illness or anxiety. It could be that we need to talk, not just talk about mental illness, but actually talk and look each other in the eyes and actually communicate. I feel like all of this is just this huge communication problem. And it arises in the physical world as all these different physical manifestations of not communicating, whether it be anything. Think about anything. It's like, well, there was a miscommunication there, basically. So why are we having so many miscommunications? Why can't we communicate? Why are children being born and then becoming autistic and not being able to communicate? And when I was driving back home, I was thinking about how vaccines and a lot of different things actually induce autoimmune conditions. So they make it so our own immune system doesn't recognize our own cells. So we're attacking ourselves at a cellular level. And I was thinking about, if we're attacking ourselves at a cellular level, then on the cellular level, our cells are afraid. They're being attacked. And so if every single cell in our body practically is afraid, symbolically at least, in terms of it's being attacked, the body feels like it's being attacked, and then that fear is in the body. Maybe that's partly what produces cortisol and stress, is that the cells are actually feeling like they're being attacked. The immune system isn't being used for what it needs to be used, which is putting the energy into attacking foreign invaders. And I was just thinking about how when there's a foreign invader, foreign antigen, and the immune system's healthy, it'll make an antibody against that antigen. And so that antibody, the genetics for that is encoded in the actual cell of the immune cell, and then the antibody's on the outside. So now, in a way, that foreign invader, that foreign antigen has become us. So by attacking something that is other than us, it actually becomes us. And we create the us version of the thing that was not us. And in that way become stronger. But with this autoimmune stuff, we're actually attacking our own antigens. Maybe in an attempt to make them us again. Or it's just really confused. So what I'm trying to say is that if that's what's going on, it's an oversimplification, but if that's going on at a cellular level and that trickles all the way up, it's going to be what is going on in our body, which is going to translate to what's going on in our minds. And if our body is being attacked and we're not even sensing it, we're just ignoring it because we're attacking ourselves, it makes sense that in our own heads we're attacking ourselves with our own thoughts, and then we're attacking other people. So I feel almost like this whole thing is designed, or whatever, to keep us separate and to keep us attacking ourselves and attacking other people, and actually not seeing other people as ourselves. In a way, other people could actually act as our antibodies. And what I mean is that if we sense something in them that we want to attack or we don't like, we need to actually make that part of ourselves. And that reminds me of Debbie Ford's book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, where we have to reclaim our shadow, and how everything that we see is a projection of ourselves. So if we're seeing something we don't like in someone else, it's a disowned part of ourselves, and we need to reclaim it. And that's one of the ways we actually are able to become less and less judgmental, when we realize that there's something that we're not allowing ourselves to be, etc., etc. Well, that's a different level of things. I just made that up. But another body can be an antibody, meaning make that body part of ourselves. Find something in them to make part of ourselves, and the other side of that is looking for similarities. That person has another body. They're another human being. They deserve to be here just as much as we do. And the trouble is, we're not really respecting ourselves in our head, so how are we going to go around respecting other people? And that's what I mean, is that on a cellular level, we've been turned into attacking ourselves. And then when we feel like we're under attack from the very smallest cell, then when we feel like we're under attack on a cellular level, we're going to feel like we're under attack as a whole. And then we're going to feel like we need to be on defense, and we need to go on the offense. And we always need to be offensive. We need to be defensive. We need to offend people and then defend ourselves and be opinionated. And also when the body's being attacked on a cellular level by ourselves, we feel fearful. And when we feel fearful, we see the world as a fearful place, and we're looking for fear. We're looking for things to be afraid of. We are afraid of things, and we don't know why. And we feel this disconnection from ourselves and other people. And so we don't feel safe. And since all of us are doing this, we're not contributing to the opposite, which is connection, which is the inner human dimensions that unite us all. And these are the things that we can gesture into existence. Imagine if we saw each other as all friends, even if we weren't friends yet. Each human being we saw as a friend. And the details aren't important, but might come out later if we start as friends and establish some form of communication based on being each other's immunity in a way, building each other's immunity to all of this stuff in the world that is making us feel like we're separate and divided from each other. And then we don't communicate, and we're not friends, and we're not connected, and we're isolated. And then when we finally do reconnect, it's over some kind of dysfunction or illness or disease. People get together because they all had cancer. People get together because they all have mental illness. So then we create these tribes of people based on the illnesses that resulted from us just not being one human family in the first place, and dividing ourselves through professions and through the wise and through the ignorant and the old and the young. And we're so divided that we create these ailments, and in a way the ailments are like the last resort of our body and consciousness to get us to reconnect somehow. So even with the placebo effect, somebody has some kind of condition or problem or concern, and they see a study where they can get some kind of treatment, and then they heal. Well, it was an excuse to connect over something common, meaning a person had an ailment and this other person had the treatment for the ailment, supposedly, and then the person heals. Well, aren't we each not treatments for each other's ailments without having to have anything in particular? Just by the human dimensions? These are the things that unite us and keep us strong. And it's not just an airy-fairy notion. When we're connected in this way, through kindness and compassion, when we are kind and compassionate, even if somebody else isn't that way to us, we get oxytocin, which is very protective of health. Because if we have cortisol, that's destroying our health. And we have dopamine, and that's destroying our brain. But oxytocin is actually released from the posterior pituitary in the brain to the body. And there's oxytocin in other areas of the body, such as the ovaries, testes, thymus, which is immunity. So that has a lot to do with immunity. So if there's oxytocin in the thymus, it means it has something to do with immunity. It's also in the retina. And I actually feel that is directly related to be able to perceive love, project love from the eyes, from the light of the eyes. And when you're projecting it from the light of the eyes, you have the oxytocin in your eyes. The light coming out of your eyes is actually healing and can actually initiate oxytocin in the other when you make eye contact, because it's actually released from the posterior pituitary through electrical impulses in the brain. So it's not like it's released because of this chemical cascade. It's actually released because of neurological impulses. And well, they don't really elaborate, at least on Wiki, on what those are. But to me, you have to be able to see with oxytocin to be able to get those neurons in the brain and glial cells to get the oxytocin released in the body. You know when you see kindness. You know when you act kind and then you feel that warm and fuzzy feeling. You know that fuzzy feeling after you just had a good laugh because you saw and perceived and heard something all together. It's contagious. Oxytocin and love is contagious, but we make it within ourselves. But we can create that positive social contagion based on kindness and love without judgment. And then we actually strengthen ourselves by doing that. So the only real strength is in being the immune system for somebody else, for being a body, and being kind to somebody else, and seeing them and looking at them without judgment. And when you do that, you actually heal yourself and you heal the other person. The light from your eyes. And I feel like part of the damage being done by certain chemicals in the environment and different things and foods and vaccines is that it's messing with oxytocin. I almost feel like if the body is constantly attacking itself somewhere in some kind of autoimmune thing, it's autoimmune, it's inflammation, there's cortisol, there's all this stuff happening. It's like it's degenerating. It's more difficult for the oxytocin to come in, because if we're always so afraid, we're not looking for love. We're less apt to perceive it. If somebody is in pain and their body's falling apart due to some autoimmune disease, they're likely not walking through a forest thinking, wow, this is the most beautiful place, I'm in heaven on earth. If the body's being destroyed, it's very hard for us to be able to do that. So I'm seeing more that there's something about this oxytocin versus cortisol dopamine thing going on, and inflammation and autoimmunity to keep us separate. And then we come back together when our bodies fall apart in order to have medical intervention. And it seems like medicalizing the birth process, giving vaccines to pregnant women, making pregnancy some medical phenomenon, doing so many C-sections, which prevents the release of oxytocin, which helps to bond the mom and the infant. I actually feel like it's a war on oxytocin. It's a war on that molecule that bonds us together, bonds the mother to the child. And even if we do bond, then a baby's vaccinated or something, and then the child can't bond to the mother because all of a sudden, and I've read in autism there's something wrong with the oxytocin system. So to me, it's more about connection and communication, and all these things that are ruining that. Society's designed with chemicals, with things that aren't natural, with so many things, with medicalized, with authority, with all this stuff, and we're not thinking for ourselves, and we just smile and nod, and then we get some kind of ailment. We're not seeing what we're doing. We don't understand the body. We don't understand ourselves. The only way to fight back is to be kind, is to kill them with kindness. And killing them, whoever them is, there's no them. It's all us. It's all symbolic of us not understanding ourselves, each other, communication, how our bodies work, how our brains work. We don't understand. And then we give that understanding over to the scientists. and science has been turned against us. But again, there's nobody really doing it. There's nobody doing any of it. It's the prevailing level of consciousness that manifests as people doing those things, but there's nobody really doing it. It's just a phenomena in consciousness. We just hear about it as a story. But other than hearing that story, we don't really have proof that that happened. This world is just a bunch of noise that we ascribe meaning to. And then when we hear certain noises, and then we ascribe meaning to it, like, oh, that's something I should be afraid of, then we take on that fear, which just makes us further able to see more fearful noise. Might just be a matter of ignoring it and be like, that's just noise. It seems like we'll be creating so much chaos that the financial burden of taking care of people would be so extreme that the whole concept of a financial system will lose any meaning whatsoever. Because if there's so much cost associated with all of this care needed to take care of people, and maybe there's not even enough people who can take care of these people, then those other people take over and the world actually has to be created based on them. Which, who knows what that looks like. But we need to switch to a currency of love and kindness and doing what we can where we are. So the hypothalamus, it has these oxytocin cells that create the action potential that go down to the pituitary. And I feel like, and I remember reading in Dr. Daniel Siegel's work that the hypothalamus gets damaged when somebody's traumatized. And when it's damaged, then it's hard to sort out memories and perceptions and have a sense of ekphoria, etc. And I feel like if the hypothalamus is damaged in that way, that it's pretty hard for somebody to have the oxytocin cells activated. So again, the more trauma there is, I actually feel like that's when somebody needs those oxytocin cells activated by caring. And then the oxytocin gets released into the blood and heals the body. So the perception of somebody caring is the most healing. The understanding of the intention to care, to be kind, to be patient, to value somebody as a human being. So perception is required for oxytocin release. Perception of something that isn't material. It might involve something material like a person, but it's the immaterial gesture, or the gesture, the intention, the meaning of the material gesture, but the intention is immaterial. The meaning is immaterial. It's in our mind. And that meaning is what actually does something. The perception of that meaning. And we can always tell, even if we can't consciously tell. And that's why I feel like we're killing each other with our thoughts, feelings, and actions, because those thoughts and feelings and actions are gestures that the other person can read, even if it's not consciously, because we can't read everything consciously. It's way too much information. So looking for things that unite us and bond us, looking for similarities, looking for love, looking for that immaterial thing, perceiving it is what is getting it. Looking in that way, approaching life in that way is what gives us that. Because we are that. So if we're perceiving in a different way, in a judgmental way, every moment is judgment moment. And we're only judging ourselves, and we're creating ourselves based on what we're judging, instead of using another person to be our immunity to judgment by seeing something we might judge and seeing how that could be something that could happen to us, or we might do, or we might be. And these are the things we need to start talking about in order to resolve some of our shame and connect based on that kind of vulnerability, versus waiting to connect because somebody has cancer or something. And in that talk by Dion V. Mall about the law of miracle, he said, I'm going to deal with this. It's not going to deal with me. And he talked about how usually we're trying to maintain an image of ourselves, so we design our life around maintaining an image. And I think that my mental health diagnosis has helped me maintain an image. But I'm being provoked by the universe to break that image. And deal with other things. The whole mental illness thing is still part of it, because I feel like people like me who have been diagnosed have a lot of power within them to take action to heal the world of some of the things that they've probably been through or witnessed, or maybe would want to participate in changing based on what they've been through, even though it's not directly related. And I was watching the Primacy of Consciousness lecture again by Peter Russell. And he talks about how Planck's constant is a unit of action. And love is action. And that unit of action of Planck's constant can actually start action potentials, and all of that starts in the retina. So again, perceiving with oxytocin, we're seeing different light. We're making oxytocin salient. We're making connection and meaning and seeing relationships. And this could be the biggest thing that's important in the whole hyper learning and neuroplasticity, is being able to see in this way, seeing connection, seeing relatedness, not just seeing the me and division and dividing ourselves from each other. If we could actually all see in this way, we would be talking about different things. The world would be based on different conversations. We're talking about the wrong things. We end up talking about mental illness because we don't know how to see with the eyes of love. We don't have oxytocin in our eyes, which is helping to select the right light, to give the right action on our retinas, to give the right action potentials in our brain, to allow the right brain cells to be activated and grow and continue to grow and make new connections and be pliable. And seeing in that way creates oxytocin in the body, and love is wisdom, and that wisdom is what keeps the body strong. Nature selects for wisdom. And I feel like one day nature will select for wise humans, and it'll know. And all of a sudden there'll just be way less people on the planet, and they'll be a lot wiser. And there'll still be another planet full of the people that aren't as wise. I've already had a sense of that when the world splits. And who knows if it's true, and even if it is or isn't, none of us will know the difference. And it's probably already happened. We are all living in different worlds. It's a matter of now you see it, now you don't. We need to get with the love program.